This last Monday on Raw, Paul Heyman comes out and he's introducing his new guy. Now, internet speculation said it was going to be RVD. Yay. But then the music hit, and it wasn't RVD. Thank God. It was Joe Hennig, a.k.a. Curtis Axel. A guy who's been with the company for a few years now. A guy who's paid his dues. A guy who's a third-generation wrestler. And he's not just put in some small spot. He doesn't just get a match on Raw. He gets a match with Triple H. He's associated with Paul Heyman. This is a guy who just got brought up to the big leagues in a big way. Now we all have guys like that. Guys, for me, like Alex Riley. For you, maybe a Tyson Kidd. Guys that we root for that just aren't getting featured on TV, or if they are, they're getting featured in one match, they're losing it, and then they're back off TV. The WWE finally took a big risk and brought a young guy up and put him in a huge spot. And hopefully this gives us hope for other guys. This gives us hope for the Kurt Hawkins, the Tyson Kids, the Alex Rileys, that they could be brought up. That if they put in their time and pay their dues like Curtis Axel did, that they could be big stars. Thank you, WWE, for finally having the balls to put some new talent on your show.
Any of you ever been involved with a company or seen a company or worked for a company that used to do something really well, but then they started to get a little too full of themselves? They started branching off into other areas that they really didn't know anything about, and not only did they not perform well in those other areas, it ended up affecting their performance and their core competency. I know I saw that with a company like Foot Locker, who I worked for 4.5 years. When they stuck to the shoe business, they were fine. But then their parent company starts buying up shit like the San Francisco Music Box and Icing, and then they start buying other shoe companies like Foot Action and all this other crap. And what ends up happening is they stop focusing on what got them to the dance and what made them money, and they started to get greedy. They had money in the bank that was burning a hole in their pocket, so they start going and spending it, kind of become too big, and it ends up affecting their performance. They lose sight of what got them to the dance. And not only did they fail in these other areas, but it started to affect their basic nuts and bolts business. You could even see that with OTRS. I mean, we were doing videos in 2011, in the beginning part of 2012, and then for some dumb dick reason we decided to do a newsletter. A dumb decision on several different levels. And not just because it didn't work. But the bottom line is, instead of focusing on the thing we did well, we started to get a little full of ourselves and said, oh, we're going to branch out into this area and da-da-da. And not only did that not work, but it affected our video making at the same point in time. And I don't know if it's ever come fully back to where it had been before. It's because we took our eye off the ball. Just like Foot Locker took its eye off the ball. Just like many, many, many other companies out there throughout the course of time have taken their eyes off the ball. Some companies are able to recover from it. Some companies, it ends up killing them. When I look at the WWE, I see a perfect example of this. This is a company that first and foremost was a wrestling company. But in today's world, they're so concerned about getting away from that stigma of professional wrestling and being labeled a wrestling company, even though that's what they are, and that's what they were built off of, that they brainwash everybody with the terms like sports entertainment and the WWE universe and taking the wrestling out of the WWE name and all this other crap. It's very, very concerning when, from the outside even looking in, when you see a company that starts to be worried about all of this to the point where they seem to be apologizing for the thing that got them to the dance. But then you see a company too that now that there's no real competition, frankly, they're bored and they've got money burning a hole in their pocket. So they decide that they want to branch out and they want to be a multimedia entertainment conglomerate. The things in the past like the Bodybuilding Federation that failed and the XFL, a good concept, but was doomed to fail, in part because of Vincent K. McMahon. Even the things now, WWE Studios, less than a raging success. I mean, shit like the WWE Network. You're so focused on getting your own network out there that more than a year after it was supposed to debut, it's still not debuted, and it's still apparently not on the immediate horizon. Why? Because you're focusing on shit that you shouldn't be. You're focusing on shit that you don't fully understand. You're focusing on stuff that takes away from your core competency. Just like this WWE crap. This WWE app crap, excuse me. Where you're sitting there and you're spending so much time trying to pump this up and pump it, pump it, pump it up our butts and down our throats. And this is for a company that for many years you could tell, under the leadership of Vincent K. McMahon, has despised and hated the internet, failed to understand it, failed to realize that it was going to be the wave of the future. And now all of a sudden, again, instead of sticking to their core competencies and focusing on wrestling and being a wrestling company, they want to be sports entertainment. They want to be a movie studio. They want to be a digital social media empire. And it's all blowing up in their face, and all the while what it's doing is it's affecting the nuts and bolts of the product. So if I had one thing I could simply request the WWE do in the rest of 2013 and beyond, is take a deep look in the mirror, realize that maybe you are a little too full of yourselves, maybe realize that not everything you do automatically turns to gold. Prioritize, figure out what's the most important thing, your on-screen product, your live events, those type of things, the nuts and bolts, merchandising, your DVD library about stars and shows, those type of things. Those are the nuts and bolts of your business. Some of this other crap, like the WWE app that you spend so much time pushing down our throats. Stop. This WWE network. Stop. If it's taking you this long to do it, chances are it's going to be a failure. Just stop with the madness. Stop focusing on all this other bullshit that doesn't matter. And focus on the bullshit that does. Because I can assure you, WWE, if you continue to take your eye off the ball and become even more fascinated with becoming your own television network or your own movie studio, your audience is just going to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And then what are you going to do?
Well, one of the things that comes up after Slammiversary is the Bound for Glory series, and this is one of the things that TNA does. I think they've done this very well over the last couple of years. You look at guys like Bobby Roode, who's won it. Jeff Hardy's won Bound for Glory series. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about 5 guys that you would think would have some kind of a chance to win this thing this year. Number 1, you got AJ Styles, who's been probably the face of this company ever since it started. And one thing you can say about him right now, he's kind of like the Sting right now. Kind of like Sting back in 1997, where he was like the Crow and he didn't have any friends and everybody was his enemy. And he can't get according to the storyline, he can't get another world title shot until Bound for Glory. So why not have him win this series? Or you can always go with like a young guy like a Magnus, who, I mean, he's had issues with 8s and 8s in recent months and that, and then I think he's a great up and coming star. The guy can talk, the guy can wrestle in the ring. It'd be a great spot for a guy like him. Also, you look at older guys like a Kurt Angle. He's been called the Cyborg and things like that, and he's had problems with 8s and 8s. So, hell, this could be a spot for a guy like Angle for him to win. Also, you got another guy like the Samoa Joe, who, since coming into TNA back in 2005, he's been one of the main featured guys in that company, and it'd be a good spot for him as well. And then you have a guy like a Matt Morgan, and you look at this guy, 7 foot tall, over 300 pounds. Guy can talk, guy can work in the ring, and yet he's just never gotten that opportunity. Maybe in his eyes, this would not be another Hogan mistake. And so, but as far as who I think will end up winning this year, I think it's going to be somebody like an AJ Styles. So that's what I think about the Bound for Glory series. I think it's one of the best things that TNA comes up with every year, and I think it should be no different this year.
So let's wind this bad boy triple threat up. I understand you got something you wanted to say about the WWE app.
The WWE app is so annoying, but you better fucking download it.
Does it frustrate you that they get so...
It frustrates me that not only do we get commercials during Raw, we get it mentioned every 2 minutes, but no, it's in the tweets too.
So you think they need to stop with some of this shit?
I think that if they have commercials for it, they don't need to mention it 100 times. I mean, if we were gonna get it, we would have got it by now.
That's what you would say about the WWE network, you would think,
Yeah.
too. I understand you got something you want to say about Curtis Axel. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, like what you said, Mike, that he's finally getting his big spot on television, and being associated with a guy like Paul Heyman can only help him.
Yeah, I guess. And as far as that Bound for Glory series, it would seem like right now, based off of the way he's being packaged, the way he's being presented, and like you mentioned, talking about the storyline, he couldn't get a shot at a title until Bound for Glory. You would think right now that AJ Styles, in theory, would be the favorite to win the Bound for Glory series, although I think Matt Morgan would probably be that other guy that would be most likely to win it. If they went with either one of those guys, I would be just fine with it, frankly. What I don't want to see happen is somebody like fucking Kurt Angle win it, because you know they love to put 40-something-year-olds in their main events at big-time pay-per-views. Or in some cases, 50-year-olds that like to wrestle in their T-shirts and can't even apply their own submission finisher. See Stingiversary next week. That's all I need to say about it. Thanks, guys.